This is part two of our four-part series on the roadblocks to execution. When we are thinking about execution, our actions that we are taking to move towards a desired result or a goal, that's generally what we think of when we're thinking about execution. And that is true. That's a very important part. What is the action we're going to take? And yet, there's another thing that can be lurking in the background that can create problems and undermine our execution, and that is roadblocks. There are some very common roadblocks to execution. So, in addition to paying attention to the action that we are taking, moving us in the direction we want to go, it is really valuable to be scanning periodically to be aware and make sure that these roadblocks are not minimizing the impact of our execution. So, the roadblock we're going to talk about today is, well, it's kind of a sneaky one: perfectionism. Now, you may say, I'm not a perfectionist. I am not a perfectionist. I don't have a big need to be perfect. And yet, perfectionism has interrupted my execution. And I've learned to be particularly aware of it. So, how does it masquerade itself that it doesn't look like perfectionism, and yet it really is? It can look like high standards and or an attention to detail. Do either of those two things sound familiar? Yes, that's me. I do have high standards, and that is a true statement. I also am detail oriented. That is also true. And yet, our strengths can suddenly become our greatest weakness. Our greatest strength, with just a little bit of a shift, can become our greatest weakness. For me, high standards and attention to detail can turn into a negative when they become fear driven. Then I procrastinate because I'm not ready. It's not good enough. It doesn't meet my standards. Does any of that sound familiar? Perfectionism can show up in many ways. So if you have ever hesitated to send that email, have the conversation, send the proposal to a client, give the project to your boss, all of those things can be really perfectionism masquerading themselves as I'm not ready, it's not ready, it doesn't meet my standards. There's still details that need to be added. And here's the challenge: when we get in that loop, we're not progressing. As Seth Godin says, we need to ship our work. And waiting for the work to be perfect means we're not shipping our work. The way that we get better is through repetition. We get better by doing the thing, then noticing the feedback that we get back from it. And that gives us the opportunity to then make the next result better, the next product better. And yet, if we don't send it out into the world, we don't get that feedback. When we are continuing to send our work into the world, whatever it may be, it could be projects, proposals, emails, conversations, whatever it is that we do, when we are not sending it out into the world, we are not getting the feedback that will help us get better. When we continue to stay in motion, we have the opportunity for momentum. Momentum is really where our success lies. Momentum and repetition of things is where and how we gain mastery. None of those things are possible when we're not sending our work out into the world. This is enough of an issue for me that I periodically go back and read Seth Godin's book, The Practice, because it talks about that idea of shipping our work. And it sometimes can be hard. How about you? When you think about your execution, pick a particular goal that you have in mind or a desired result. Are you regularly sending work out? And then are you paying attention to the feedback that you get back and then using that to get better? When we're really serious about gaining experience and mastery, we not only are going to ship our work, we are also going to pay attention to the feedback. That's where we will learn and get better. So perhaps you've realized that perfectionism may be a bit of an issue for you. So what do you do? One of the things that I learned years ago is to define what is 80% done. When it's 80% to whatever our idea of completely ready is, go ahead and ship it. Send it out. The chances of us finishing that final 20% and it making a significant difference is actually pretty low. So define what good enough is. Good enough should be one of the standards that we're aiming for. What is good enough? Because when we're waiting for perfect, we're not making progress. And really what we're after is progress, not perfection. So define good enough and then let it go. Set a time limit and how long you can work on something. This works for me. I have certain deadlines. One of them is every Wednesday, an email goes out that typically has a video. That forces me to finish. I only have so much time. I can't get too trapped in perfectionism. And yes, sometimes my emails are a little late. Generally not because I haven't finished. There's usually something else that has happened. Give yourself a deadline. Define what good enough really looks like, and then go with it. And pay attention to the feedback. So the roadblock of perfectionism can be a sneaky one, and it can really slow our progress towards mastery and towards the success, however we have defined success. So as you are thinking about your actions this week, check in. Is the roadblock of perfectionism interfering with the results you desire, the progress you're aiming for, and the impact that you can make in this world? That's it for this week. Talk to you next week. Bye for now.